Today, we're going to have a little bit book talk on this edition of What's Up Wednesday for October 16th, 2024. Before I begin that, though, let me just remind you that this past Saturday, I sent out my Saturday broadsheet. So you can find that at my blog, leniebrown.com/blog, on my Substack, leniebrown.substack.com, or on Patreon at patreon.com/leniebrown. In that broadsheet, you will find all the information about what I am working on as far as writing projects go, and other projects. You'll find all the books that are on sale right now, and you'll find another installment to the story, Harriet and the Colonel. So make sure you go check that out at one of those three places that I mentioned. All right, so moving on. I have decided to talk today a little bit about my series Other Pens. And the reason for that is because if you read the Saturday broadsheet, you will discover that I have two books in that series, book 1, book 2, Henry and Charles, that are on sale right now. They're actually free anywhere. Whichever bookstore you like to buy your books at, you should be able to find them for free, and that's all around the world, not just the US or Canada or anything like that, but in all the places. Okay, so there are 5 stories in this series, and I thought I had all 5 of the books, but when I went to pick up the books off the shelf just now, I couldn't find Tom and Addie's story. Stories. It's not one story, it's 2 stories. Tom is book 4, and that's Tom Bertram. And Addie, she's a brand new character that I created. That is book 5. She happens to be best friends with Susan Price and next door neighbors to the Bertrams. So she lives next to Mansfield Park. The other stories take place in, well, the majority of them anyway, take place in London. Tom's story takes place both in London and at Mansfield Park, so there's 2 different locations there. The others are all in the London season type setting. So we've got Henry, who starts it all. Nothing has changed from Mansfield Park in this series. Everything stays the same as far as Mansfield Park goes. This is just a series that continues on from there, which is why it's called Other Pens, because there's a quote at the end of Mansfield Park about let other pens dwell on. Well, I decided that this was going to be the dwelling on the others that weren't deserving in Jane Austen's estimation. So we cleaned them up a bit and we made them deserving of a good happily ever after. Henry starts his book already prime for finding a different path forward. He regrets Fanny and the fact that he did not stay true to what he told her he was going to do, and instead he was swayed by his sister and by his desires to pursue Maria Bertram, who was then Maria Rushworth at that time, and he made a mess of everything, and now he's stepping back into the London season with that scandal still hanging over his head, and he would like to marry a proper young lady. Well, who in their right mind wants their daughter to marry this guy who has just, ruined a marriage, by chasing after somebody's wife and causing a huge scandal? Wouldn't necessarily be the first guy you would pick for your daughter or sister or niece or whoever it is to be tied to. So he needs some help figuring out how he can do it right this time, because he managed to, almost sway Fanny to his cause, but then he totally blew it. And really that's a good thing, because personally, I don't think it would have been a good relationship. Might have been for a little while, but I don't think it would have been a good relationship for either one of them. And he kind of comes to that realization in here too. You can read about it in there. I know there are people who will disagree with me about that, but I stand by it, and I think I have some good reasons for it. But we're not going to discuss that in this video. Okay, anyway, he needs some help. And he has a good friend who is all that is proper. Like how someone like Trevor Linton and Henry Crawford became friends is kind of a mystery, or maybe it's better to say how they stayed friends. That is a mystery, because Trevor would never do anything scandalous. Like, he does everything by the book. And Henry, he doesn't. So they're kind of opposites. And Linton, Trevor Linton, that is, he has a sister who is a lovely and very proper young lady. A little bit of a blue stocking, because she, likes books and learning and things like that. But a nice, proper young lady. And so Henry decides that it would be a good idea to ask if she would help him learn how to be the kind of gentleman that someone like her would want to marry. Well, you can tell just there that there's going to be problems, right? Because it's best friend's sister. Best friend does not approve of how Henry has been behaving. He knows Henry has changed, but he's still afraid that his sister might get hurt in the process. And he's very demanding that everything be done properly. So that's kind of part of the conflict in there. And Henry's like, oh, well, we're not going to, fall in love, but they're going to, right? And they do. And then something happens. And if you know what a grand gesture is, it's that moment usually towards the end of a movie or a book, when either the heroine or the hero makes some sort of dramatic gesture that's just heartfelt and sacrificial, and it's this huge declaration. Maybe it's very brave, to prove their love for the other person. Henry's grand gesture is epic. He does a really grand gesture, and you really need to read it, because the girl that he is in love with, Trevor's sister, which her name is now slipping my mind, Connie Constance. She is, she does something to try to help him, because she hears that his sister is not happy with this new leaf that Henry has turned over. So she's trying to help him. Her help goes totally the wrong way, lands her in trouble as far as scandals go, and as far as her brother goes. He's, ready to kill whoever has, tarnished his sister's reputation, even if it's a good friend. And it's that setting where Henry does his grand gesture. And you really do need to read it to find out what it is, but it is very public, and it is something that no one's going to forget for a long time, because it's going to end up in the papers. And that's all I'm going to tell you about it. So we'll leave it at that. And then we've got, so that one's on sale right now. It's free everywhere. The other one that is free right now, I tell you about that one. Charles is Henry's other very good friend, but Charles is not proper. In fact, he's less proper than Henry ever was. So he is a rogue. if you will. And Constance, the heroine in this one, she has a friend. Oh my goodness, names are slipping my brain today. Evelyn. Evelyn is her friend. And Evelyn's mother is as demanding as Constance's brother was, but maybe more so. Like, she's not a fan of Charles, and Charles has made this bet that he's going to be able to steal a kiss from Evelyn before the season is over. And actually, yeah, that's all I'm going to tell you about that. And Evelyn is a different sort of heroine. She is not just your stay at home and hope to get called on by a good man type of heroine. She is into charity work. She even has a charity house that she is part of running. She also has a serious suitor at the time who isn't right for her, but she hasn't figured that out. But meeting Charles helps her figure that out. And then the grand gesture in this one is not done by the hero. The grand gesture in this one will probably also end up in the papers. Not quite as spectacular as the one that Henry did, but it's still quite the act of bravery as far as Evelyn goes. So you'll have to read that one to see it. Tom's also has a grand gesture that is, what's the word, performed, I guess, by the heroine. And that's also a really good one, I think. I love Tom's story. I like Faith. And Addie's story, there's the grand gesture. I don't think there's a typical grand gesture in that one. You'll have to read it and see if you agree. The hero does do something extremely sacrificial, puts himself in some really serious danger for the heroine, who he has just met. He doesn't even really know her, but he puts himself out there for sure, very much so, in that one. So you'll have to read and see if you can find a grand gesture. I don't think it's the same in that one. I can't think of anything at the end that is really super grand gesture-y. It's kind of starts at the beginning and then kind of works its way through. Now, Mary's story. She has a hero that, yeah, the grand gesture is pretty big, because she's in a dangerous situation. He comes in to help her out. That's all I can say about that. That's even giving a little bit of a spoiler, I think. But yeah, Gabe is the hero in this one, and I think you'll really like him. Now, let me just cover something that is probably something that people are thinking about, because I know Mansfield Park's not the favorite novel that Jane Austen wrote. It's one of my favorites, but I know I'm not the norm when it comes to that. And I know that Henry and Mary Crawford, very hard to like. At least I think so. I know some people really like them and think they should have gotten better, but I don't. They weren't super pleasant in Mansfield Park. They were manipulating people, trying to get what they want. It was kind of all about them. So it took some work. Henry, he kind of started in a good place, so it wasn't too hard to get him. But Mary, over the course of Henry's story, and even Charles's, she just kind of gets a little bit worse before she gets better. But you'll find out kind of her thought pattern and what's lying behind how she's been acting when you get to her story. And something has happened before her story that has put her in the right place at the right time to have a change of heart and to grow and become a much better version of herself. She's still herself, but she's really found her footing, I guess is a good way to say it. So that is the Other Pen series. The first 2 books, books 1 and 2, are free right now. That's why I was highlighting it this time. And there are some really great grand gestures in all of them, except maybe that last one, number 5. I'm not sure if there's a grand gesture there, and you'll have to read and see what you think. But definitely pick up Henry's book and Charles's book and read them. Don't just stick them on your Kindle. Like I do sometimes when I get free books. They just sit there for a while and I might get around to them. I still have books, that I've gotten years ago and I haven't gotten around to reading. So get them, read them, discover the grand gestures. I think you'll enjoy them. And just because it's based on characters from Mansfield Park doesn't mean that it's not going to be a good story, because I wrote it. So if you like my stories, you'll like these stories because they're Leanie stories. And when you get a Leanie story, you kind of know what to expect. It's going to have a nice, sweet, happily ever after. And there's going to be a good bond between the hero and the heroine. Sacrificial moments of love that'll happen, and just really Leanieized. So make sure you get a copy of Henry and a copy of Charles while they are still free. Charles is only free till the end of this month. Henry is going to be free a little bit longer. If you are a Patreon member, you can read them both for free on Patreon, but you can also go and download one if you want to too, because they are either way. You can do it either way. All right, and I think that is it for this Wednesday's What's Up Wednesday. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week, and I will see you next time. Bye.